Welcome to another episode of the Lords of Consciousness videocast. I'm your host, coming to you from the sunny deserts of Arizona, and today I'm joined by Adam Green from No More News. Adam, welcome, my friend.
Thank you for having me. Excited to talk with you and become a official Lord of Consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's the objective, is for all of us to tune that part of ourselves on. I recently found your work. You know, you are a truther extraordinaire, my friend, and I've been turned on to you from your Christopher Boland interview. That was just absolutely incredible. In fact, it really went viral and got a couple 100,000 views on it. And if there's ever any information that would be amazing to go viral, that would be it. And so then I've been checking out a lot of your other stuff, and you have such a great perspective on what's going on in the world, and even within the truther community itself. And, I call it truther community, whatever that means. Obviously, that's quite a vague, open-ended term. But those who are looking to really, unmask the lies that have been told to us. And I'd like to start off with just your own awakening process to what's been going on in the world in terms of, this gigantic, it is a conspiracy. I'll use the word. It's not really a theory. It's a true, legit conspiracy. And, how have you come to that knowledge, and how has it worked for you?
How has it worked for me? It's been kind of depressing and shocking, and to realize that the level of conspiracy in our culture that the mainstream media just ignores and tries to suppress. But you're saying my awakening process?
Yeah, I mean, to all of it, through your own life, I suppose, but even to this greater, these other truths of the the history of humankind, really.
Yeah, well, there's several different ways to explain my awakening process, because it's not always one moment; it's a process.
Absolutely.
But definitely 9/11 played a huge role in it. I believe the official story until about 2008, and so that was a big part of it. I had a friend send me a few documentaries about the Federal Reserve and the world against Monsanto like 10 years ago, and that kind of got me down the path of really being interested in documentaries and finding where else we've been lied to. Also, the Cannabis Conspiracy is one of the first things, because as a young kid you grow up with Dare and Reefer Madness and all that, and you see how it's illegal, and there's a huge conspiracy behind why cannabis is illegal, and hemp also. So
absolutely, it's just, I share a similar story to you in terms of 9/11 and even cannabis and psychedelics. Just the whole insanity behind the prohibition of it. I think most people even in our country would look at alcohol prohibition as kind of a crazy idea, looking back on the history of our own country and about 100 years ago. And, now you just kind of associate that when you finally start waking up to the propaganda of it all, it's like literally the same thing. And thank goodness there's been huge movement in terms of that lie. And people legitimately are waking up en masse, especially because they can profit from it. But at least the truth is being set free. Now, when it comes to 9/11, where would you give the report card in terms of like the collective consciousness here in the United States, at least of 9/11 truth?
It's so weird because I go do these man on the street interviews. I've done it like 5 times, asking about 9/11 truth just to random people on the street. And also on 9/11 I went and talked to firefighters, and it's almost 50-50 that people question the story and don't know that something's fishy about it. But it's like the media is never gonna really admit to anything, and it seems like 9/11 truth is kind of dying out, but at the same time more people do know the truth. It's just going to be like a myth like JFK that goes down in history that is always doubted by a lot of people. And that's probably where it's going to end. And all these people are going to die and get away with it. And they already achieved most of their goals by 9/11, launching the war on terror and the war on Islam, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and you said it. It's. I recently did an interview with James Perloff, an author who's he's spoken out a lot about 9/11 Truth. He's written a lot of articles about it, and one of these things we talk about is this ability to get this unveiled on a greater scale. Like, how do we make sure that this doesn't end up being a JFK thing? And the fact that, as time comes away from the event, we're 17 years down the road now, and it just makes it that much more obvious now that you have the 17 years to see who benefited from this event. You can look at the JFK thing and from far away now and go, well, shit, man, if we got 50 years now to see who benefited from it. It's kind of almost obvious now who's behind these things. And one of those is this, I know Christopher Bolin's been big on it, and same with James Perloff and many others, and you especially, about this idea of who is behind the 9/11 events. And a lot of the evidence points towards this, I don't want to say, I hate saying just a country because it means like the whole people, but really just, the controlling element of the Israeli government. And can you kind of, give me, what do you think is the consensus within the 9/11 community on is Israel being an Israeli operation?
Well, I go to meetings at the San Diego 9/11 meetup group from time to time, and they've hosted Christopher Bolin when he does his book tours around the country, and he says it's one of the best groups. And by far the majority of everybody there knows it's that the Zionists were behind it, and they all give Christopher Bolin like standing ovations and love his work and his books, and they all think that Alex Jones is a Zionist gatekeeper. And the people that are like really still active in 9/11, we've made it a long way. We've come a long way since just like talking about the physics of the towers and some of the more basic stuff, and now we really do kind of, people are figuring it out and connecting the dots and putting it together, and we know who did it. But I just put out a video yesterday, No More News. It's Christopher Bolin calls Alex Jones a Zionist gatekeeper. And I think that control of the alternative media has been crucial in keeping 9/11 down, because Alex basically betrayed the whole 9/11 truth movement in the last few years and just doesn't talk about it anymore. He won't have Bolin or any 9/11 researchers on anymore. So I think that's been a huge detriment to getting the truth out there. Not to mention the ADL and the SPLC are in charge of social media now. Have you seen that hate index video that they just put out? They've got, everybody just Google or YouTube ADL hate index. It's a 1-minute video, and they got this girl, and she's talking about how they're using artificial intelligence to track down hate speech. And they show these graphics, and they literally say 9/11 truth is hate speech.
Wow.
And so that's who's in charge. So they're shadow banning and putting governor switches on with these algorithms and stuff. So
I wanted, you talked about a little bit about how you feel like the 9/11 is going to go down in history like the JFK situation. How do we still remain hopeful, though, that justice can be served? I mean, what motivates you to keep putting this content out there and to keep this in the collective consciousness?
What motivates me to keep it going? It's just that it's so overwhelming. Like, there's so much just shocking information that I've seen in my research. Like the fact that I mean, obviously mainstream media is not going to be covering this stuff, but the fact that we do have the tools to kind of get it out to people with social media and YouTube and stuff, I just feel like it's a crime not to share this shocking information.
Right.
So, and, to know what to do moving forward, like it's very likely we could be discussing war with Iran. We already are. It's almost imminent with John Bolton being appointed as national security advisor. So, and that's that totally is associated with 9/11, war with Iran, because on the day after 9/11, Ehud Barak was in on the morning of 9/11, Ehud Barak was in BBC World Studios and listed all these countries, and it ended with Iran. That's the ultimate goal that they want to take down. And it's this Oded Yanan Greater Israel plan to break up the Muslim countries that surround Israel.
Yeah, man, and it's unfolded just how they said it was, going to happen. Like same with General Wesley Clark, he listed those those
Yeah.
countries, and they've all fallen off pretty much. I mean, and I'm just hoping that with what's going on in terms of the rise in power of Russia and China, that potentially that balances out the powers a bit, and maybe that potential of this war in Iran won't go down, because obviously that would, it's pretty heavy consequences even for like the NATO countries to do this. I mean, unless we're just going in on a full World War III, everyone's going out on their sword kind of thing, and God forbid that's the road we're going to take. And it's hard not to think that we are when you do see appointees like John Bolton and things like that that are in these places of power, as if we thought this whole neoconservative bullshit was kind of in the rearview mirror, and now it seems to be like rearing its ugly head again. It's like 9/11 all over again, and maybe we're approaching another false flag. It almost seems like we would need one in order for their agenda to move forward.
It's just like history is repeating itself in the year 2000 all over again. Once Trump got in, all these PNAC neocons are getting back into the Trump campaign. He's buddy with Israel and Netanyahu and all the Likudniks. And just a few weeks ago, there was a PBS article where Trump said that they need a major event to unify the country. So this is the same rhetoric that we heard with Project for a New American Century, with the new Pearl Harbor catastrophic event.
Oh yeah, and you're really touching on this big fraction that's taken place within the truth community, of almost people who think Trump is fighting for the good guys, and then this other half of people that are, that's we're talking more like the David Ikes, the Max Egan types, who definitely see Trump as just an extension of this cabal. How from a bird's eye perspective, since you've been in this community for a long time, like what do you make of this phenomenon of half the people really believing now in this the savior at the top complex?
It's a great question. I think it's revealing the people amongst the truth movement, or truth movement, that really have been the controlled opposition. It's like they've taken the mask off, and now they're going for broke and not hiding it anymore. And when you look at like the kind of conservative drudge, Alex Jones, Breitbart, WND, this is all just like the kosher conservative stuff that's super pro-Israel and basically just kind of Republican light.
Mm-hmm.
And
Republican light, I like that.
Breitbart was founded in Israel, essentially. Andrew Breitbart went to Israel. There's a photo of them with Netanyahu, and then they literally, like, in their logo, they flash the Star of David. And then, it's just like they're all aligned with this drudge, like, alliance with Alex Jones and stuff.
So what do you make then of? Do you think that there are multiple powers that be? Because obviously a guy like Alex Jones is still calling out, the globalists and, the leftist agenda, and the, especially lately, like you said, he's really focused on the left more so than, it seemed like before he would focus on, the right and the left, Yeah. So what do we make of this? What do you make of even Alex Jones switching, but yet still keeping? It seems like it's a partial truth. It's not like it's just 100% lies that he's spewing out. It's almost sometimes what he doesn't say is why I think you almost have a bigger issue with him than anything else.
Oh, I got tons of issues
I know.
with Alex Jones. I'm doing a whole documentary about it. And of course he has to give you a lot of truth.
Yeah.
Because he has to convince a big audience that will know if he's lying. So it's like he does talk about a lot of the symptoms, but not like the true causes. And it's right. It's lies by omission. It's failure to just like have an honest debate with people. It's a bunch of things. So everybody stay tuned for the Alex Jones exposing documentary. And I already have a playlist up of a few videos I've done of him talking about being visited by Mossad and basically collaborating and agree to not point the finger towards the Zionist for 9/11. And do you want to get into Alex Jones now?
Let's just do it. Let's do it. Let's just go. I want to.
So Jones hired Jerome Corsi, who is literally like such a hardcore Christian Zionist. He's been writing books about bombing Iran. He's the Washington correspondent, even though they really don't have a press pass, they just got a temporary one. So Corsi is, I have a clip, and it's Alex Jones deemed kosher by top Israeli intelligence. Corsi's on the show talking about, I just got this intelligence from people above Mossad, and I told them I'm going to break this news on the Alex Jones show, and they're like, great. So top Israeli intelligence likes Alex Jones. He's basically, total Zionist gatekeeper.
Yeah, and when do you think was there a switch in the middle of his career? Because it seems like it's more of when this Trump campaign was really starting to like get into full gear that something changed where he, there's no way the change could come from the top, and now all of a sudden he's Trump's biggest cheerleader.
Mm-hmm. I think it's Trump, and I think it's Roger Stone. I don't if you've seen the Netflix documentary with Roger Stone. Like, he really just popped up on Alex Jones' show and pretended to be some like total outsider, but really he's just kind of like marketing himself as that because he's a total establishment insider hack. The other day on Alex Jones' show, when they were totally downplaying the Trump's appointment of Bolton, he had Roger Stone on the show, and he goes, he's a great guy, he's a nationalist, and I've been having poker and drinking whiskey with him for 30 years. Like, no big deal that Roger Stone has been hanging out with Bolton for 30. That's no big deal to Alex Jones. It's just insane. Like, and it's a slap in the face because all of his long-time listeners, they know this stuff. They're not stupid. So he just thinks he's just slapping in the face to them. And now he's catering to this like Christian Zionist, MAGA, new conservative type of people. Sickening.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know Adam's work, you've actually been a part of the Infowars community. Your stuff has been shown on there. You've been on like phone calls with them. Can you kind of just briefly explain that, just so people don't realize you used to be a fan of what Alex was doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally true. And that's why people should actually like listen to what I have to say. I'm not just some outside Alex Jones hater, or I'm like a commie liberal or something like that. I used to like Alex Jones, but I was never fully fooled by him. I was always aware, because you can't miss the videos on YouTube saying he's a Zionist, this and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So I always had my doubts, but I kind of would give him the benefit of the doubt and make excuses and stuff like that. But I've been on their show, like they played my videos probably 5 times. I won a contest for the Make Fun of Hillary video contest. I won $1,000 from them. And I've spoken with people that work there. They talked about hiring me and doing interviews, but I always felt in the back of my mind that they saw some of my other videos and knew that I talked about Zionist stuff. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I kind of got the cold shoulder a little bit from them. But then, and it's like, once they went full in for Trump, I knew that if Trump got in and was a wreck, that we would know that they were liars. And that's like basically what's happened. So
what do you make of the QAnon phenomenon? Because it seems like a lot of the following behind Trump that I've seen, especially of late, almost mm-hmm. kind of more of the moderate community has really all of a sudden attached themselves to Trump because of this QAnon phenomenon. And I include myself on that. I mean, I still just look at this whole entire thing with an open mind. I mean, I hope Alex Jones and Donald Trump prove us wrong, and all of a sudden everyone gets arrested. And hey, man, if they had some greater strategy at play here, we'll admit it immediately. I mean, I'll turn, I will be on board immediately. But until then, I have to watch everything just from like, I don't know, man. So kind of, explain to me what your opinion is of the QAnon phenomenon.
Okay. I don't have a very good opinion on it because I've never been that interested in it, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I see the stuff pop up on social media, but I usually don't click on those articles because I see Jerome Corsi is always talking about it mm-hmm. a lot. And I mean, it's just some anonymous guy on 4chan, right? Mm-hmm. That's basically, that's predicting stuff. Like, what should I know about it? Because I haven't been seeing like super legit stuff that shocks me that mm-hmm. he's predicted or anything.
Yeah. And
so you tell me, what is it? Am I missing out? I don't know anything about it
You know,
really.
it's a cryptic. It's all very cryptic. So it's like it's like code deciphering. He talks in riddles, and there are certain things that he's predicted have come to pass, and or
Like what?
like like Trump taking pictures. Like right now, there's one that Trump's going to take these thumbs up pictures. It's like just kind of giving the hey, I'm still on board with Q kind of thing. And you can kind of see a little bit of and I can't remember specific examples, but certain movements within the government. At least, I again for me, I feel like this is so difficult to judge Trump without just letting this unfold a little bit. Like what was his involvement in Syria? What was really happening there? Q was one of those who said, when they had done those bombings in Syria, that they pulled the Russians knew about it, and they pulled the planes out, and they just basically bombed in a vacant field just to kind of appease the mainstream media here, the left leaning mainstream media here in the States, or at least in the West. And that potentially could be true. I don't know. I mean, he says he's going to be pulling out of Syria now. I mean, I don't know what kind of game Trump's playing, and I don't know what you think yourself from your perspective. I mean, do you think it's possible that he is somewhere in the middle, maybe? That maybe he's like half establishment, half like hey, I'm a bad guy, but I'm no child molester bad guy kind of thing.
Well, obviously, I don't know for sure, and I hope that Trump does have some good in him, and we have some hope. But it seems to me like he's a Rothschild puppet. He got bailed out in the 90s when he was going bankrupt by Wilbur Ross. That was the top Rothschild banker. And now he's the Secretary of Commerce. And he's surrounding himself with tons of these old neocons and all these Zionists. And I think that there is a bigger scheme here with Trump. And I don't think he's going to, pulling out of Syria, I think that's a chess move. He's going to pretend like, oh, we're pulling out of Syria, but then something else is going to happen. And then it'll give us like, oh, well, we have to go back in now, but he was going to pull out. It'll give like him right cover for the Alex Jones people, the people that are aware of what's happening in Syria, because everybody around him wants to be in Syria, and they want to get rid of Iran. I mean, John Bolton was in front of a huge lobby of Israelis and said, we're going to celebrate in Tehran in 2019. Like that's the mindset of these people. And Jones is saying that, Trump's not going to listen to Bolton. It's like, then why did he appoint him to be national security advisor?
Yeah, I mean, it's really this division within the community that is Trump playing 5D chess, or is he we're overthinking it. And I think, because you can hear the rationale for a lot of this. I'm in a lot of groups where, after the Bolton hiring, I was like, all right, I'm kind of losing hope in this whole idea that Trump is working to help us, Like, and how many people do we have to like give excuses to where in terms of the people that he surrounded himself by, that, here it's some strategy and this, I'm going to do this and that. I'm keeping my enemies close. And I get that. And if so, great. But like eventually there's so many, like really, he's just literally surrounding himself with these characters and he's somehow going to play himself out of it. I struggle to see it too, man. It's a tough one to swallow.
Honestly, I think that the people that are handling Trump, they're all trying to fulfill messianic Jewish prophecy. That's the video I've been researching the last few days. I'm going to probably record it tonight or tomorrow morning. They think Trump is the new Cyrus and that he's going to help them rebuild the temple and that their Messiah is going to come. And the Sanhedrin, which is this collective of top rabbis in Israel, they've just minted a coin with Cyrus and Trump on one side and then the temple on the other. And these Christian Zionists in these Jews, not all Jews, but a lot of them there believe this. They are obsessed with rebuilding this temple. It's the Rothschilds were involved with rebuilding the temple hundreds of years before Israel was even founded. This has been like a long-term goal. And I think the rabbis believe that Trump and Putin are going to help them do it.
And Putin, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's another. You mentioned Putin earlier. Some people think that it seems on the surface like Putin is with Iran and he's kind of like against Israel and the United States a little bit. But a lot of people, like, it's divided. A lot of people think that Putin is controlled by the same people as Trump and Netanyahu and, like, this Rothschild, Kosher Nostra type thing.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of Jewish billionaire oligarchs in Russia, and Putin does have close associations with some top rabbis over there.
Oh God, man, it's like this. It's. I never even thought in my own life I'd come to this, Jewish conspiracy. Because God, ever since we've been alive, at least here in America, there's always this like sensitivity around just even saying the word Jew, for crying out loud. So and again, I want to always preface this as I'm not talking about just the regular people here. I mean, all of us are brainwashed on some big grand level in many ways, whether that be whatever religion you're born into, whatever country you're born into, whatever that be. So I think when we say Jewish conspiracy on some level, it's like we're talking about a nefarious group that is controlling Israel. If it's obvious that their government at the top levels is run by these types of people. I mean, Benjamin Netanyahu is number one, right? I mean, you can easily look at the stuff that Benjamin Netanyahu has said and then watch it all unfold. And I mean, 9/11 especially is the great revealer of this. And we have many other events in history too pointing towards that. And I mean, it's tricky because it's not like I'm sure even it's not like you set out to like, become some anti-Israel guy. So how do you manage like the cultural programming and yet still saying the truth of what's going on?
I'm still in the process to like learning about like all this temple stuff is just stuff I've started learning about in the last year or so.
Mm-hmm.
There's a really good documentary by a YouTuber called Johnny Gat. I don't know if you know him, but it's called David Duke 3D Chess, and it's not really about David Duke. Well, actually, it's attacking David Duke, saying that Duke is like a shill for Trump because he's given this 3D chess explanation, and then he goes on to disprove Duke. But he's got all these clips and all the evidence of this rebuilding the temple stuff. And it'll be in my video too that I'm going to have uploaded real soon. So everybody watching, subscribe to No More News. KNOW. Dude, I don't know if I've said No More News yet.
Well, we'll have it up we'll make sure that we have it, the text up on it. But
have you seen my documentary, The Conspiracy Theory Conspiracy?
No, I have not. I have not seen it. When did you put that one out?
I put that one. That's what I started with, and when I started my channel about 3 years ago. But I've done a new updated version. It's pinned to the top of my YouTube. It's called Conspiracy Theory Exposed, and that's kind of like my more professional documentary that I made. That I took the time to make it like documentary-esque.
Could you summarize the topics? I mean, is it of the greater conspiracy as a whole, or?
It's about how the government in the media uses the conspiracy theory label to dismiss conspiracies and put a stigma on, questioning the mainstream belief, basically.
Have you yourself been called an anti-Semite yet?
A little bit in YouTube, but
yeah.
I don't care at all because I know in my heart that I judge people just by like who they are. And everything that I think and that I repeat and publicly say about any issue involving Jewish issues is that I can back it up like with their own words. I don't just throw out accusations and generalizations and stuff. It's all factual. Like this isn't even a secret. There's a Temple Institute, and you can go on YouTube and watch the rabbi talk about this, and they've got the altar all ready and they got everything set up, and they want to start the animal sacrifices again. Like, this isn't my opinion by any means. You can go watch this and see the rabbis say it themselves. So it's not anti-Semitic.
I mean, in all the work that you've done, as you've uncovering a lot of this stuff, do you see any change that could ever come from the top, or do you think that the only way that the world changes is totally a grassroots movement, or a combination of the two, of course?
I don't think it's going to come from the top. I think they have such control over who gets into those positions that we're not going to see anything crazy from the top. And as far as grassroots, the only grassroots thing I see anymore is like artificial grass roots, astroturfing, like George Soros stuff. Like in our culture now, the recent march against guns is like grassroots.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I suppose real change, and this is something that I focus on this channel, is like real communities being formed that are like some sort of self-sustaining communities that can support each other, that are no longer dependent on the system. And if enough of us on some level can start living that way, I mean, that's the way to live anyway, just because that's a better way to live. But in so doing as well, it definitely, I do believe that that's one of the best ways we will kill the beast, in a sense, is to starve it out by not really participating in it as much as we can, which is way easier said than done, and may take generations to really make happen. But it seems like it has to happen, because can our planet even continue on this path of unsustainability, and this like evil model that we have? I mean, I mean, overall, would you say that, Adam, that you're hopeful in the future, or do you sometimes feel pretty pessimistic about it?
Pessimistic for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be honest, yeah, I'm pretty pessimistic. I feel like so many people are so distracted and caught up, and just I don't see a mass awakening unless they just, like, the establishment overplays their hands so bad that there's a crazy revolution. But even if there's a revolution, it'll probably be filled with something worse. I don't have a lot of hope for humanity, to be honest.
What's the next step, would you say? I mean, even for this truth, the truth community as a whole, like what would be a positive direction that we could take it? At least anyone listening right now, like what would you say to them to, like, to direct their energy towards? Obviously,
people you're gonna have to talk to people, because I feel like doing it online worked for a little bit. Like, YouTube's only just over 10 years old, but already they're like, oh, this is out of control, so now we're gonna have to, they're saying they're hiding conspiracy videos, and any videos critical of certain issues get banned, and they have that whole shadow banning stuff. So I feel like it's going to have to be person to person, to really, on the individual small community level, to like elevate people's consciousness. Like, I try to talk to some of my neighbors and give them DVDs and, like, just be like, if you disagree with it, fine, just let we could have a talk. You can tell me what you disagree with, and we could discuss it. And I hand out DVDs to my neighbors, and it's like they never want to talk to me again. So I don't even know if they watched them and didn't like it, or just didn't even watch it and just thought I was crazy, and it's too crazy to even waste their time. But it's hard to wake people up. On 9/11, I was up in Oakland for the 9/11 Film Festival, where I premiered my updated and improved conspiracy theory documentary. And the morning I went to Golden Gate Bridge, and it was 9/11, so I felt justified to interview and stick a camera and microphone in people's face and ask them what they thought about 9/11. And people should watch the video. Some guys got so angry, but then they didn't even know the most basic aspects of 9/11 truth. So, it seems the less informed people are, the more opinionated they are. And, the entertainment and distractions and people just struggling to put food on the table, they're holding us down, that we're not ever going to be able to really rise up against them. I don't think so.
Yeah, I sometimes do believe that it's going to require something massive to get the mass awakening that we would need for this to happen. I think as long as, like, this economic system just keeps humdrumming along, and everyone's has food on the table, and their checks coming in every 2 weeks from the big corporation, it's going to really be hard to get people to look into this. Because on some subconscious level, even like you give your example of the neighbor, I think some people realize, like, I don't want to be awakened to this, because then I know, like, it's just going to, like, fuck up my whole life in terms of the way I do things, and that's what happened to me. I mean, I was in the corporate world when I started waking up, and on some level it was like, shit, man, I want to go back to sleep, because it's like now it's harder for me to even participate in this. And eventually my conscience made me, like, make decisions towards the other direction. And hell, I didn't last very long in the corporate world thereafter. So I got cut off the teat, if you will. And I think a lot of people are faced with that. And I have hope that something even like that, an economic collapse or something like that, could potentially be a catalyst for a true shift. I mean, and when that happens, I think we have to seize the day. We can't just line up in their bread lines waiting for the handout. Like, we have to, here's our chance to create the new world we want to live in if it happens. So
what if we could elevate the consciousness if they legalized retreat centers where people could go do DMT and mushrooms, and then that became popular and accepted, and then everybody started becoming, oh, I'm so peaceful. That could work.
Dude, I mean, trust me, I'm a huge proponent of plant medicines could heal the world, man. Could you imagine even if all the politicians had to take 5 grams of mushrooms in silent darkness, like Terrence McKenna says? I mean, they'd probably all die from it. But I think if regular people were to use those medicines, I think we'd have a humongous mass awakening. I know you brought up that idea of the prototypical hippie in a sense, but when you do those plant medicines, you start realizing how ridiculous war is. I mean, in the middle of a mushroom trip, when you start thinking about war, it's like, it's literally insane. It's insanity to you. Like, the fact that we could ever even go there, and how are we even talked into this shit? And you start looking at that kind of stuff, and it does. It breaks barriers down. It breaks down all the walls of illusion. And you're actually totally right, man. I mean, I don't know if you were joking about that or not, but I think the movement we're seeing in California.
It's way better than it's what you just saw. People were petitioning to legalize mushrooms in California a few weeks ago.
Heck yeah, man. That's huge movement forward. These kind of medicines really can heal a lot of the shit that's taken place over the last several decades, centuries, millennium, really.
I feel like the people that really need to take them probably don't have the right mindset to have them be useful, though. Like you give a psychopath mushrooms and they're probably still going to be a psychopath.
Oh, I think so. I think it would be, they would just scream for 5 hours because they'd have to face themselves. But I don't think that, I think certain people are going to die with their lies. I mean, I don't think the objective is to like turn Hillary Clinton into a peace-loving person. I mean, maybe that ship has sailed. Most likely it has. I'm talking about, there's a lot of people in just regular society, lots who are good-hearted people who are just trapped in a bad system and who are stuck in like generational patterns that they can't get out of. My dad, my grandpa, my great-grandpa, they were all doing this shit too. So it's they don't know any better, and it's like to be able to like stop some of that and heal from that and move forward. I think there's a lot of good potential candidates for plant medicines in the future. And it's just so many are brainwashed from the propaganda that these plants are bad for you. You'll lose your mind. You'll jump out of buildings. All the bullshit. And
do you know Jan Irving?
No, I don't.
You haven't heard of him? Gnostic Media.
I do now.
He went from being like a huge proponent of plant medicines to totally switching and saying it's all MK Ultra, CIA mind control, and in Huxley and McKenna, he says is CIA, and Dennis Leary. What is it? Dennis Leary? That's his name, right?
Timothy Leary. Timothy Leary. Yeah. Dennis McKenna. Yeah. Terrence and Dennis. Yeah. I mean, that's really interesting. And it's funny because you bring that up, because I almost look at even like flat Earth as like this idea of like the conspiracy mentality gone overboard, if that makes sense. Like you see conspiracy in literally fucking everything. You can almost like lose your mind to it all, right? I mean, you can look at the flat Earth and be like, yeah, NASA's fake and all of it's fake. And you can like eventually connect the dots to flat Earth. And I actually respect that. I mean, maybe they're fucking right. I haven't, until I see it for myself, I guess I'll just leave the shred of possibility open that maybe we are living on a flat sphere. I don't know yet. But
I think it's a huge step to say from we didn't go to the moon was a hoax, to flat Earth. That's a huge, I
It
wouldn't even lump those two together.
it is. I'm just what I guess I'm saying is like even with this idea of Jan Irving talking about how psychedelics actually are a psyop. And hey man, I've had bad trips where I think shit man, what am I doing? Yet I do believe those are there to teach me something. Anyway, my point is just that I think there's like a danger in the conspiracy world to like over conspiracize everything, if that makes sense. Like you could think everything's MK Ultra, right? I mean, you lose your mind in that space.
Yeah. Oh, that's definitely true. In this day, every event that's big, that's on the news, gets turned into a conspiracy. And obviously, I think a lot of that is government putting out purpose disinfo to try to, you know, um, spoil the punch bowl or muddy the
Mm-hmm.
waters.
Yeah. Even do you think that the Parkland shooting was in Florida, the last school shooting? I mean, do you think that that was about gun control, or do you think that's more about just divide and conquer the people? Like, look at us now. Everyone, like the left and the right, is just after each other. And in fact, even the conspiracy world is all this censorship online was really centered
Mm-hmm.
around talking about, crisis actors and things
Parkland, yeah.
like that. And it's like we
Yeah, they
took the
came after
bait.
the First and the Second Amendment hard off Parkland. Have you seen the video of Parkland where it's a helicopter and it shows a bunch of guys wearing black running out a door, like carrying a big bag? Have
Mm-hmm.
you seen that
Yep.
one?
Mm-hmm.
What it is that been disproven or not? Because that's pretty shocking to me. Especially when you look at the other witnesses who said, "Yeah, I was with the shooter and we heard gunshots going off." And then the teacher that said, "Yeah, I looked right at the shooter and it looked like a policeman, had all the police stuff on." And that video with the people running out of the side,
I mean,
I haven't
the
heard
whole
that
event
debunked.
stinks to high heavens, right? So ultimately, it stinks to high heavens. And again, it's another one of these things. Will we ever get to the bottom of it? I mean, like the truth isn't even allowed to be shown. At least, even the idea of why did those police officers get called off? Why didn't they go into the building? All these things. Why isn't Sheriff Scott Israel being held accountable for calling off his guys? Like that's insane. And why is the FBI doing a fake shooting drill at the same day that the shooting happens? And the list go on and on and
Have you
on.
heard the most recent one? They're saying that the permit for the march was a month before the shooting happened. Is when they
Really?
asked for the permit. Yeah, I don't know if that's true, but that's what's been circulating online. But yeah, I don't, like you're saying that there's too much conspiracy. I don't want to say that every event that happens is a conspiracy,
Right.
because it's discrediting if we say everything is. But the Parkland, it's like for years we've already had like the checklist of things that we look for to see if it might be a false flag or
Mm-hmm.
false fake error. And this one, you could almost check off every single box. Like the FBI knew about them. There was a
Mm-hmm.
stand down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, witnesses reporting multiple shooters. Uh, there's probably a few more too, but
Just like the Vegas shooting. It's and just like all of them. I guess then the question then is, Adam, does the truth community need to be willing to lose some battles, meaning even whether those kids are crisis actors or not, right? Which is really again the linchpin for a lot of these channels getting removed from YouTube over the last month.
Mhm.
Whether or not they are crisis actors, is it a bridge too far to bring up topics like this and just let's just lose the battle so that we can win the war? And maybe you point out some of the things that I just feel like some of these events are being used against us now, almost to go against our communities, to create an event. Then they're going to take the bait, and then the people who have not done any of their homework only see it as just insanity. I mean, if you were totally plugged into the mainstream media and you heard people saying that these kids are crisis actors, you get fucking pissed off. And that's what they've done. They've gotten way upset and angry. And now whatever truth you have, like let's say you're also talking about 9/11 truth, now they're not going to listen to you. And so it might be one of these things we have to start like picking our fights a little more carefully, because certain things are a bridge too far for people.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't be saying anything you can't back up, with some solid evidence. That's the general rule of thumb.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And to say this Hog guy is a crisis actor, I mean, first you have to define exactly what you mean by crisis actor, because there was a crisis, and anytime you're a person, you're out, you're talking to people, you're technically acting. When you turn on the camera, you can act any way you want. Acting is just like behaving. It's synonymous. So he's obviously being paraded around by the media. I saw a good cartoon of like the media pumping his head up with a balloon. In these photos of him, I saw his speech. I watched a lot of that march, and it was just sickening to see these kids. His speech with like his thing at the end, and
yeah, it seems so orchestrated.
In the rap song, I guess I saw an article that he got arrested for gun charges.
Oh my gosh!
So, yeah.
We're living in the mad, mad world, my friend. I mean, ultimately, I just to gain my sanity, I have to sometimes go, this whole thing's a big cosmic joke. I can't take this like overly serious, like in terms of like losing my sanity over it. And so I think you probably share a similar perspective on that. Brother.
Yeah, people ask me that a lot. They go like, are you depressed to think about all this stuff? And it's like, I'm grateful for my life and how good we have our life. It's way worse for a whole bunch of other people. So, I try not to let it get me down too much. There's plenty of positive things in life to use as a distraction from all this, but it's a struggle to try to wake people up, because the information is so shocking. We just got to share it. That's what I'm about. Knowing more news.
Yeah, man.
Knowing both sides of the story.
Yeah, and you do a great job of that, man. You do. I really do appreciate how honest you are. You're not playing any party lines. You go after just where the evidence leads you, no matter who is at the end of the rainbow. The black rainbow. You're the type of person that seems to be saying who it is. And I appreciate that. That's what I
don't like being wrong. Like being wrong, and I'm fine with admitting if I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people out there, their egos are so big that they can't admit they were wrong. So that causes a lot of problems in politics in general. And everything is so hyper partisan now, with like ever since social media, the way people are online, it's like we're disconnected. We can be so mean to one another, and then the media is just getting more and more extreme.
Yeah,
there very well could be civil war or civil unrest or World War III any day.
Well, and we could, and I think we need to be cognizant of this paradigm, this polarization that you talked about that's happening. And you can see it right and left. If you really get balanced and you really just look at this very unobjectively, and you don't play on any team, all you're on is Team Truth. Mm-hmm. And, like I'm sure even Christopher Bolin, if you kept talking with them, there probably might be something you guys even disagree with on some topic of life, but that's okay. That's okay. Right. And I think that we all need to start like just coming to the middle here, man, and trying to like build bridges between each other, and also just realizing like we're all getting played here, man. Many of us are left and right. The regular people of this world are on the same team here. Like you look at even left to right politics, we're talking about a collectivist model versus an individual model. Well, I like both of those, actually. So maybe both sides of the table actually have virtues to bring to the greater good. And I hope that we can eventually get to that point. It's just the problem is this the way the media, because we tune into media, the mainstream especially, and even alternative, as your work has shown, can put you into teams and camps. And I think we have to be real careful of that, especially I know a lot of the truther communities turning, almost going real far right because they are believing that Trump is this the savior now. And I think if you're listening to this and you're in that camp, I hope you just keep your mind open and don't try to stay off all the teams. Let things whatever you can control, great. Otherwise, just watch it unfold and hold true to integrity, not the person themselves, because we've seen way too many politicians say one thing and do another. I mean, it's like we cannot base our whole movement on what Donald Trump is saying. Let's watch what he does. So, Adam, I thank you so much for coming on, brother. I really appreciate the work that you're doing. Again, you can find him at No More News, and that is KNOW. And check him out on YouTube. His channel has been growing. I mean, the work that he's doing is really opening eyes, and I think it's really fantastic. So thank you, brother.
Thanks. We just passed 1 million views on the channel, and we're almost at 10,000 subscribers. And I've been trying to I just got a new format for interviews, so I'm going to be doing a lot more Skype interviews. And like you said, bringing it together and kind of doing the middle. I do interviews with Bo Lin, and then I also do like Ryan Dawson and people who like kind of disagree on issues. And nobody has a cult personality, and I don't trust any one person. I kind of just pick and choose the stuff that I is sourced correctly and logical, reasonable arguments, and kind of I'm just trying to figure out the truth. So that's my objective: finding out the truth, real truth, not my truth. You can have your truth, and I can have my truth. It's relative. I want trying to, because you're not getting it in mainstream news. You're not getting it from alternative alt-right, according to major media, with like Breitbart and Infowars and WorldNet Daily and that kind of thing. So we're going to need more people like me and some of my other favorite YouTubers, or small people that are making a huge difference when you add them up all together.
Well said, man.
And like your work, I hope you come on my show too and do an interview. I want to get into your how to elevate our consciousness. I love the name of your show, Lord of Consciousness. I'm all about the consciousness.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, and the motivation behind that name is really to be the Lord of your own consciousness, man. I mean, ultimately, I do believe each of us has a divinity within us, and that's for you to find that out and to truly be the master of your own domain. And then when you come to the other side of that, you do realize we're all connected, and I think that is a really important thing. But first off is, really truly be the Lord of your own consciousness. And I think that's when the magic really starts to unfold. So thank you, my friend. Really appreciate it, Adam. And please check out his work on No More News and his work with 9/11. His whistleblowing on Alex Jones has been something that's really woken me up over the last couple of weeks as I've been delving into his content. And it's really worth checking out because you really do a great job of making sure it's all evidence-based. And you wouldn't have on a guy like Christopher Bolin, who's one of the most thorough researchers of any subject that I've ever come across. And he's one of those guys that we should all be trying to elevate his message, not him, but the truth that he's sharing. And I think it's awesome. I mean, the fact that those interviews have been doing so well for you is great. Well, forget you, just for the whole world. It's great that those are being seen. So thank you, my man. The
video you're talking about, it's like slipped through the cracks of YouTube somehow. I think it got picked up in the YouTube algorithm. It got like 360,000 views in 5 or 6 months. And it's titled Christopher Bolin, the Man That Solved 9/11.
Yeah, it's shocking that I was shocked to see how many views it had on it. Like you said, it must have slipped through the cracks. Well, Terrence McKenna always says that the internet, the technology of the internet fell off the back of the military van and bounced off into the bushes, and the local villagers came and picked it up, and it was like an accident that kind of happened, and it's something that like really truly can help free the world, obviously. And so hopefully that interview did the same kind of thing, slipped through the cracks and finally got seen by the people that need to see it. So people are, it shows you that people are wanting this information and they're looking to start opening their eyes. I mean, I think that's why guys like Trump and Clinton are in a sense good, because they're so terrible. They like woke people up to the fact that, dude, something's really wrong here. And maybe that is a catalyst for them to start peeling the curtain back further, especially with huge events like 9/11 that emotionally charged all of us, that truly, I mean, talk about a lie on such a scale, man. And you should feel angry about it, and I think that if you can process that anger then and then to make, again, flip that around and turn positive energy and to change your life and no longer buy into the systems that these events are propagating, no longer supporting agendas that these events are propagating, which again are usually end up in millions of people dead. So, let's Adam, thank you, dude.
Even if you're just aware of that 9/11 is a lie, and you're not waking anybody else up, and the whole mass media still goes with the official story, at least you're you're freed. Your mind is freed from the deception, which that is very enabling, to have that freedom, because it's a lot of, the 9/11 fear, like the war on terror fear, and the attitude that, like, we're bringing democracy everywhere and we're the good guys, and bomb all the Arabs in the Middle East. That's a heavy burden to carry.
Very heavy.
It's a heavy burden to carry, knowing the truth too, though.
Yeah, and especially if you've bought into it. I mean, even me on some level, I can remember, buying into some of the war aggression, like, Afghanistan. That was that war was okay. Things like that, and then coming to find out, wait a minute, man, I was so wrong. And you know what? All of us have been wrong, dude. Like you said, the ability to admit that you've been wrong is so vital, man, because everybody's been wrong. There's been so many lies, and there's nothing wrong with it, man. All of us have been caught with our pants down, and you can change it. All you got to do is say, hey, man, I was wrong, and this is why. And maybe actually you can help other people admit it for themselves. I think it's really it's an important process. I mean, whether that be from a conspiracy level or even just like the bullshit in your own life, the lies you tell yourself or other, like the people you love, I think it's vital to have that accountability. So, hey, Adam, I just want to again thank you. We'll close out, and we'll have you on again, man. I'd love to talk to you again about just this whole story is unfolding all the time. Things change, and perspectives it's fluid, man. It's like liquid. It's not some stationary thing. It's always ever evolving. So I would love to have you back on and get your opinions on things. So thank you, brother.
Yeah, news cycle's going really fast. Yeah, there's no shortage of things to talk about.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Take it easy.